Then Turtok spoke, who had pretended loyalty to the cock, and who always preferred lust to love. Sister, you are right. A score of roosters like him wouldn't suffice to slake our appetites. I bet within a week we'll get a better man to claw our rumps. The third hen, Prophet, who talked like a priest, said, what happened to him was a punishment from God. He was so loose and lecherous, even 7 girls weren't enough for him. God punishes adulterers sorely. He was prideful, and he rejoiced in his sin and didn't care for God's favor. And he thought he'd always be in charge. So at the last, his sins led him to a shameful end. Therefore, it is in the hands of God that caused him to be seized by the fox. When this was said, the widow arose from her swoon. She called out her dogs, Perky, Fairy, Belle, Bozzy, Brownie, Nutty Clyde, rescue my noble cock before he is slain, or else never return to me. The dogs rushed out. As fire from flints they flew over the fields. They ran until they saw the fox, who prayed to God to get safely into his den.
Then Chanticleer, inspired with a great idea, said, do what I say and I'll guarantee your safety. You are hungry and tired and can't go much further. Turn around and tell the dogs that you and I have become fast friends. This will make the dogs stop, I promise. The crafty fox was deceived by this, for falsehood always fails. He turned around and said to the dogs, the cock proposed to stay, and with that, the cock was kicked up into a tree. Thus beguiled, the fox got down on his knees under the tree and said, good Chanticleer, come down again, and I promise to be your slave for a year. No, he, my bloody heifer on my neck so black and blue has ended the love between us two. I was unwise when I shut my eyes, when I almost lost my head. The fox said, I was foolish too, and couldn't be still, making my prey a matter of debate. With that, the cock took flight, and returned to the widow's henhouse.
Now, worthy folk, although this is a fable, yet you can find a suitable message. The cock stands for foolish and vainglorious men who are proud of their chin and bloodline, which is presumptuous. This feigned fox can stand for flatterers with white words which have false meaning. They intoxicate. These two sins, flattery and vaingloriousness, are venomous. Flee them, therefore. Okay, that's actually the end of our program, and so we wanted to see if anyone has any questions. I think this last one has plenty of, I don't want to say misogyny in it. Those hens, are pretty nasty, very lecherous creatures. On the other hand, they're getting a chance to speak about the subjection that the men have placed them under, Chanticleer especially. So it's an interesting way for women to have a voice here. It's more complicated than you might first imagine. Questions about any of our fables here? Notice their social conservatism a lot. On the other hand, notice that they champion the poor and the weak. So I mean, it's complicated where they fit in the social stratum, I think.
And too, even though you have sort of staunchly moral themes, there's a sort of very realistic sexual undertone with chickens and so on too, which I think
they're just chickens, right? Yeah, the animals sometimes behave like their own animals, and sometimes they're human. And part of the fun of these fables is that switching around from one world to the other so rapidly. And I think all the authors play with that in the fable for humor. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, there are, when I went looking for these fables, some of them had 30 versions. They're all slightly different, in emphasis. As you know, Chaucer did the Chanticleer one. His is different from this. And there are shorter ones of the same. So these fables, they're circulating just all over the place, and everybody's adding or tweaking them to make them appropriate to their audiences. So they're just a very large part of medieval people's literary experience. So it's nice to make them available. They aren't very easily available in translation.
Just one of the things you very clear that there's a gratification of society.
The class system, right. Right, and I think little boys would have learned about the class system, about who's above you in social status, who's below you, from these fables. And I think largely the fables teach you to stay in the one you're born into. On the other hand, if you're poor, like a peasant or of the lower classes, it does point out injustice that the class system perpetrates. So the fables are quite well aware of the realities of medieval life. And although they're not radical about changing those realities, they're astute on the question of social satire. Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to ask about? Yeah.
You said these were kind of hard to find to translate.
Very hard. I translated these from Latin mostly, and Italian and French. They're just not widely available in English translation. Right. I think the Aesop ones are collected and translated, and you can probably get them in Penguin paperback. But these medieval versions, they're not considered great literature, I think, and therefore they've been neglected as subject for modern study. But they're well worth leaping into. Very, very interesting glimpses. Yeah, hard to find. Other things? Okay, well, we can, I want to thank you guys for coming. Really, it's very hard to compete with spring here. And please help yourself to some snacks. Coffee, I think, is available here especially for you. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay. Thanks, you guys did this.